Hello everyone, Random Gamer Riven here, the editor of Randomised Gaming, and just before I show you this video, I'm not going to speak over much of it, but I just want to give you a quick introduction to Bleem, or Bleemcast as it was later known. This is an emulator for the Dreamcast. As you can see here, there are a couple of functionalities. You can just have a quick view around the controls, how the save game works, and it's got a little note on some of the bugs in the game. So as you can see there, how to save. You do actually need a dedicated VMU specifically for Bleemcast games to save, but it can save multiple games to it. Bug alert here, so bear in mind there are quite a lot of revisions of Gran Turismo 2. Admittedly, the 100% thing is just a score change. All they did was change how much percentage each race gave you, because there's the same number of races in it. But the European version has a lot of bug fixes, and that's the version I'm actually using for this video. So what you do is you basically insert this disc, and then here you open up the Dreamcast, insert your original PS1 disc, and I've got an original PAL Gran Turismo 2 for this video, and then you insert it. Bleemcast actually works, I believe, with all the versions. I think it works with the Japanese and US versions. I think it works with everything, but I haven't actually tested it. I've only tested it with the European one, although I might try and get a North American copy at some point, because the European one is still running at 50 Hz. Although the emulator Bleemcast is actually running at 60 Hz, the game itself is officially running at 50 because it's the PAL version. I believe it was optimized, although I do need to check that a bit more thoroughly, but I think for Europe they did previously optimize the Gran Turismo games quite heavily. I know that, unlike some other PS1 games. Now, slight gripe here, I've had to take out all the music because they did use licensed music. I don't necessarily think licensed music suits racing games that well. It also means it's one of the reasons why you'll probably never see Gran Turismo 2 reissued ever, because they'd have to yank all the licensed tracks out. In this case, the intro track is it's actually quite a nice song. It's The Cardigan's My Favourite Game. Interestingly, the Japanese version actually has a longer intro that's cut to Pacific music. I actually think the Japanese intro is the best. The North American one uses The Cardigan's My Favourite Game completely unedited, the original song as it is. The European one has a slightly more somber version of My Favourite Game. I have to admit, for me personally, I think it's the Japanese one, European, and then US one. Although, if you ever watch the video for My Favourite Game, it's quite funny from the Cardigans, because it's basically them crashing cars and stuff. Something they wouldn't actually want in the Gran Turismo. It's quite a funny video. And it's a great song, but I just think that, for me, licensed music doesn't necessarily get you pumping it for when driving. I much prefer the soundtrack for games like Daytona and things like that are specifically made for the games. It gives such more impact to the game, where just sticking in licensed music is just a really lazy way to do things, and I'm going to just demolish any developer that does it. Please stop it and put in your own music. That way you can actually re-release them and you're not constantly yanking the games off sale, as been happening with all the Gran Turismos and Forzas, because they all use licensed music, and it also means you have to turn down the music when you're actually recording it, as I've had to do. I would also agree, the other reason I had to take it out is because of the content ID system. I can't. If this content ID worked properly here on YouTube, I'd be able to split it revenue between Sony, the Bleem guys, and all the musicians involved. But I can't, so therefore, as it would just be like one or two of the musicians would take the revenue, I'd just have to take all the music out. And myself are actually recording and capturing this gameplay. I've got a little comparison at the end of this video as well, and I've also replaced this music here. I've actually replaced with a song from the YouTube library. I actually use quite a lot of Bad Snacks' music. I really like her stuff. Her stuff's quite good. Kevin MacLeod, and there's a Jeremy, is it Blakely I use as well. Got some of their music's really good. There's some of the YouTube free stuff's not quite good, but I've used one of the Bad Snacks tracks here. Game Plan and City Nights Lights I've also put in. But if you stay to the end of the video, there is some little attract sequences for basically when you're letting the game run, and I've got a comparison video of the Dreamcast attract versus the PS2 version, but it's quite interesting to show you the comparison, just how much better Bleemcast looks to the original PS1 version, which is quite interesting. I will do a more in-depth comparison once we get all the Bleem discs. And just a quick reminder to those of you who are new to this channel, all of this footage is directly captured from original hardware. So yes, that is the Dreamcast and the PlayStation 2, and original versions of both Bleem and Gran Turismo. There's no trickery. The only thing I've done is used an open source scan converter to upscale, and I've also used an Xbox One guide to actually act as a throughput, so I can run it through at 1080p. Which just standardizes the visuals a little, just to show you how good Bleem actually looks on the Dreamcast, because as I said, it really does look impressive. Okay guys, thanks for watching. This is the quick comparison I mentioned in the start of the video here. So we're going to actually take a look at the Dreamcast versus the PS2. I didn't want to drag out the PS1 at this point. I will do a more in-depth comparison when we look at all the versions. So I'll do one where we have PS2 smoothing, PS1 and PS2 naturally. But just for the case, this is Dreamcast version running the PAL version on Bleemcast. And it's the PS2 then running the PS1 version with no smoothing or any benefits on. I can't quite sync them up exactly. I think either the PS2 version is running slightly faster, or, as I suspect, the Dreamcast version is not emulated to full speed, so I suspect the PS2 one's correct on the speed. They start synced, but they just slightly desync a little bit. The other thing is I've got one captured at 60 frames a second and one captured natively at 50, so that's another slight issue that I'm going to have to try and see if I can work my way around. It's going to require some hefty editing later on, but yeah, I would like to look at all of the comparisons. But you can see here the Dreamcast one looks really smooth and nice. It's a lot more pixelated on the PS1, PS2 footage here. Really quite interesting to see the work. As always, if you like our stuff here at Randomised Gaming, please do hit that like button. It is very much appreciated, and of course sub to us as well. I'll just let this comparison play out and just draw your own conclusions. I will do a more in-depth video at some point, but I'm hoping to get the last Bleemcast disc. We don't have I've done the Metal Gear Solid and I've done Gran Turismo. We've got those two. We're currently trying to source ourselves a Tekken 3 one. But as always, stay tuned to the channel, everyone. But I think full credit to the team at Bleem and Bleemcast. I have spoken with Randy Linden, one of the programmers behind it. The overall actual Bleem itself is actually very impressive for the time. I mean, it's pretty much groundbreaking tech when it came out. And the end result with the smoothing, I mean, it plays really well and it looks really good, and actually looks better than a couple of the really cheaply made Dreamcast games. It really is a really nice disc, and it shows you what people can do when they set their mind to it. So yeah, I really like this Bleem stuff. It's a shame they didn't do more than the 3 games, but what I've seen, it's very impressive.